You give it back to you.
When you get it. Hi, John Solari here. We're here with JoyceLynn.com. We got to give that. And we had a few minutes to wait, so we thought we would talk about Amy Linden's book and how to book it, right? Amy
Yes.
Linden's, what was it called?
15 tips.
15 tips. Now you read it all, I guess.
Yes, and I attended one class.
Now what was the main tip that?
Well, I think that she talks a lot about trying to get the knowledge of the character through what is written on the page, the script,
Right.
rather than, you know, people just memorizing their part and spitting it out. She likes for you to understand why the person is saying what they're saying in the scene, which makes perfect sense, because what is the main idea? Like paraphrase, when the person says something, what do they really mean? Is there an underlying, you know, meaning?
Well, yeah, we could say, how do I say, hello, hello? Am I surprised to see you? Or hello?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
or do
talking
I
about?
even want to say hello?
Do I, yeah, right.
Or I'm just saying it because you're there and I have to say
Yes.
it. But more or less, if you read the script,
Uh-huh.
and she has you read it 10 times so that you really understand what is being said on the page, and then you can try to, you know, of course,
Interpret it.
I mean, it's hard to just, you know, read a book once and then just
Well, you're
you know,
right, yeah.
learn everything. But it was quite interesting because I went to her class and I was watching people perform and her comments.
And she's very on the money with comments, isn't she? She doesn't take no prisoners, I heard.
Well, it's good because I think that it's always good to get an outside opinion of what
Yeah.
you're doing, because, you know, you can just get all caught up in your
Well,
own world.
Yeah, I guess, but I guess the point, because I've heard, I mean, you can go to certain people and you pay the money to tell you how good you are. Then you can go to some people, like from what I understand, Amy Lynn, you go to her class, she'll tell you what's wrong with you.
Well, that's what you want to learn. I mean,
Right.
it might be a little hard. I have a saying that you have to insult people to make them better.
But it's true, yes.
But it is kind of true, you know, because some people don't like to be criticized, but it's necessary sometimes to be able to, you know, spot the things, because if everybody just tells you how great you are, you'll never improve, because,
Never.
you know, so I say that with people that I'm working with on my makeovers and things like that.
That's another thing. Now you do a little bit of everything. I mean, she does a May East, and one of these days we got to do it here.
Oh my
You know,
goodness.
get in costume and take the
Well,
time.
actually, I'm going to Magic Castle on Wednesday, and I'm going to dress up like May East.
Now the Magic Castle is open to the public.
No, it's
No.
a private
It's a private club.
but they have a special day. I think it's all costumes, and it's going to be interesting because we are working on an act where the magician plays Carlos Caliente, the world's most fascinating man. He said anybody could be interesting, but to be fascinating, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And then I do May. So is that an egg roll in your pocket, or you just let us see? It's kind of a riff on Mae West, who I adore. And I actually wrote a one-woman show as Mae West, but I just wanted to, you know, use my own humor, and I thought this is a great character.
And have you now? What attracted you to Mae West?
Well, she looks like me. I know it sounds weird, but I feel like that. And my mother named me May, and my middle initial is M-A-E, and my mother was always imitating her, and she'd always go, "Come up and see me sometime." You know, she could do this stuff, and so I just got interested in her. And then I read her biography, and she was like way ahead of her time.
Way,
I mean,
yes.
she got arrested for a play called Sex.
Sex.
And I mean, now it's very tame compared to what, you know, we see now, but in her day it was outrageous.
Yeah.
And she was very pro everybody. I mean, she helped the gays, she helped the blacks, she helped a lot of the people that were, and she also, this is a funny thing, she donated her old limos to nuns. She said, "I can't stand nuns driving in, you know, terrible cars or whatever." And there's an actual thing, it's in my story that I, you know, wrote the show, but I can't exactly remember word for word, but it's on that nature where she likes, you know, to make sure that everybody's taken care of properly.
That's, yeah. And she seemed that way. And she was one of the reasons excuse me, I imagine why the movies started doing the ratings, you know, the
Hays Code or
what it was, because
yeah.
before that they could get away with a lot of stuff.
She got away with
Yeah.
a few things.
She had right.
hid it. She actually planted some innocuous things that she didn't want so that she could get what she wanted because she knew how to work it.
Right,
And she's so smart.
I'm glad you read that and said
Yeah.
that, because I had heard that she deliberately put
Yes.
stuff so that they would, we can't use that,
Yes.
and they would forget about
Absolutely.
what she did.
Because sometimes, you know, you just want to make them feel they did something so that they
Right.
got you, you know,
Yeah.
and so she would deliberately plant things that she didn't care about in the script so they could take it out so that what she did care about really stayed in.
And
that
she was no kid when she started.
She was, I think, in her 40s.
That's what I'm saying, when she on Broadway.
But
Yeah. I mean,
that's all good.
really, and there's an inspiration from, you talk about actresses not getting work, you know, after today, after 25, younger.
Well, she made her own stories. She wrote her own things so that it's perfect. Instead of, you know, depending on somebody else to, you know, do the writing for you, she was very, very smart. She wrote everything. She made her own, you know, way, shall we say. You know, like all the plays that she did and even her own dialogue. One time when she first got a movie, she didn't like her part. And she stormed out and they said, well, do you want to write it yourself? And so she said yes. And so she came out decked with all her jewels. And, you know, and she had a certain persona. She wasn't going to play anybody's mother. She was going to steal a guy from anybody. That she had her own standards. I always say that about me. I have my own standards. They may be low, but they're
Didn't she discover Cary Grant? Is that true?
She did work with, actually, Tom Selleck, she discovered. That
really?
was interesting. He was in, what was the name of that movie? Was it Sextet, or was it, what was the one before? I'm not sure. I'd have to remember, because I wrote it, but I haven't, you know, remember, I haven't done the play yet. I just wrote my whole show.
That's interesting. Tom Selleck, I didn't know that.
She spotted him from the window. She spotted Cary Grant too. They were walking. She was at the studio and she looked out the window and she saw him. And so, you know, a funny thing happened afterwards when she saw him, and she said, if only he'd dye his hair, I could still use him.
Really?
Yeah, that's part of some of the stuff I found. It makes a great.
What was the meaning of that, though? That's interesting.
Well, because, you know, she felt like that she was young always. Even she was pissed off when she was 80 and someone said she looked over 18. I mean, she just, you know, really
She made Maya Breckenridge, is that the name?
Yes, that's the movie that Tom Selleck was in, you're right.
That was her last film, wasn't it?
No, she did Sextet after that.
Oh, because I know she was in the 80s when she...
Yeah, she had a whole resurgence in her 70s where, because of Myra Breckenridge, she was able to get a lot of press and a lot of new, and she was she said, I am the sweetheart of Sigma Chi, but I could have been the sweetheart of Sigmund Freud.
It's amazing, and I could tell you have a passion for her.
Well, I think if you're going to tell somebody's story, you know, you really have to learn about them and get into it, because I feel like you know, if you can't really identify with that character, you're not going to give it your full, you know, it's not going to do it justice. And I just have so many, I mean, I started reading, originally I was reading it to get my, you know, May's character. But when I started reading what she did and all this stuff, it was just so interesting. I said, this is a show in and of itself. Right. And I said, I'm going to do both. I'm going to do Mae West and Mae East. You know, the Mae East I write myself, but then the Mae West she wrote, because I pretty much quote a lot of the things that she said, and I, you know, I talk about. I mean, it's only going to be like maybe 90 minutes.
Now you said you have to identify. What is your identification with her?
Well, she's.
If I may ask.
Well, she's kind of a trailblazer, and I feel that I've always been into rights for other people. It's just kind of the way I feel. I actually took a test and they said my main characteristic is being compassionate. And it just carries me through a lot of situations when I see things that are wrong. I used to teach in Watts, actually, and I did this once. I saw this older boy, and he was pushing this young kid, and I stopped my car. I jumped out. I said, "What are you doing?" "That my little brother. He don't want to go to school." "Oh, never mind." And I said, "Okay." So sometimes before you do anything, you always have to ask what's happening. Then I saw a big fight in the middle of the street. I stopped my car because that's what I do, and I jumped out and I tried to break it up, and then this father came in back and he helped me break it up, and I went, "Thank you so much for helping." He goes, "You're tying up traffic, and that's the only reason I'm helping you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Oh, for whatever reason, at least I got it done."
Yeah. Wow.
But
So you really are very compassionate. And
well, I like to also get things done because so many people, they see an injustice or something and they just like turn their face. They don't really do anything. Not that, I want to get killed for it or anything like that, but I like to be as proactive as is reasonable for what I can do because I'm not exactly a big person. I can only do so much. But, if I can do something, I like to try to, help.
well, that's really admirable of you. And I tell you the truth, a lot of times women can stop things a lot
Yes,
easier than a
absolutely.
man can.
Because men, well, sometimes I had one time a boyfriend who was 6 feet 4.5, and he goes, "Can you tell that guy to stop smoking?" I said, "Well, why don't you tell him? Like, you're way bigger than me." And he goes, "Because if I do, he's going to try to pick a fight with me. If you do it, he'll just, listen to you." And I thought,
It's true.
that's interesting how sometimes you don't have to be the biggest, strongest. You just have to, say it nicely.
aggressive and,
it might be good.
Yeah.
People, well, it's how you approach people so that they can do things without getting upset or thinking you're trying to pick a fight on them or something like that with them,
It's true. I mean, a lot of times I've seen things, the man gets intimidated and there's a battle going, this and that. But, he's 6'4", yeah, people are going to get...
They're going to think he's trying to pick a fight or something.
Yeah.
And then today I had two upset people calling me, and one of them said, "You're so calm." And it just, like, I try to not get people upset. I try to tell them, let's just move on. Don't dwell on all the bad stuff because it's not going to help. It's just going to make you feel worse. And so I try to make people feel more positive and to do something that's, after it's done and you're upset about something, I understand that. But if you keep reliving it, it's just going to make you sick. And there's nothing you can do because it's all over, so let's move on. I said, let's move on. And she goes, you're right, I'm going to put it all behind me. But and I'm like, I know that, I understand, I know how you feel, but it's over. And so she was happy. She was actually at the end of...
Where do you think that comes from? Your family or religion or Buddhism?
Oh, my dad, I think. My dad
Yeah.
would say it takes two people to argue. He never argued with my mother. He would just walk away. He said, it takes two people to argue. If I don't argue back, he said, she has no one to talk to, so I just leave. And I mean, he was so calm, amazing. I just learned so much because he was such an easygoing person. He was a pleasure to be with. I just had a great time.
Well, it shows. And it's in Hollywood. It's not easy to be as calm as you are, and especially in the business, you do a little bit of everything. I mean, you do hair and makeup, you do haircuts. I said hair, but you also do you do so many voiceover.
Well, there's so many things, but if you work on both sides of the camera, then you can have compassion for everybody because some people get an attitude, that,
Yes.
and so you have to kind of realize why are they doing that. Is it maybe it's nothing to do with you, maybe they just had a bad day or something like that. I always go breathe,
Yes,
relax.
that's it. I learned that from my acupuncture doctor, Dr. Kim, and he gives me that.
Yeah, it really centers you and calms
It does,
you.
it really
Doesn't
does.
it?
It does.
And so many times people get so upset and I just go, just breathe. And then just, okay, now what is it? And let's just relax. And when you're doing somebody's makeup, you want them to be as calm and as easygoing as possible because they've got to go on set. And you can't
Right.
have somebody all distressed and, so if they're screaming at me or whatever happens, I just listen. I don't, I don't talk back to them. I just, let it go because obviously it's not me, it's them, of course.
I like what your father said, it takes two to argue. I've been learning that. I just, all my life I was one of those, I was there before I knew I was there. I had you by the throat before I even realized I had you.
Ooh, that's good to know.
And now I just take a step back and breathe, like you said. And,
Yeah, and assess the
Ooh.
situation. Think of it in the big scale of your life. It's like in that little moment, you can get so intense and you can think it's just the end of the world, but really it's nothing.
And it is in the sense because you're going through your mind. I know for a fact
Yeah.
at that moment,
It's so important at that moment.
you level it.
But in the scheme of the whole day or whatever, when I see people complaining about stuff, I was in a meeting this week and then this kid had ALS. She's going to lose both her arms. And she goes, but I can still talk. I'll have a mouth. And she was so positive. And you think of people that are complaining about stupid things. It's just,
People complain. I mean, but then again, it's all right to complain if you think about it in a situation as, you let it. If it's out here, then it's out here. If you get it out.
Yeah, I believe you should verbalize it. You can vent and
Yes.
things like that. But many of the things are so superficial when you think of,
Oh yes.
people.
We
that
have
are
to be grateful.
having so much, I just texted someone yesterday. He was like, oh, there's my car and this and that. And I said, well, you're healthy. And I said, you can't buy that.
You can't buy that is right. And
so
I know you
that's
have to
worth
be
it.
somewhere at 8:30, right?
Yes.
So, listen, I want to thank you. This is a short notice you came on. We got to talk. I'm really glad you brought up May East and May West because a lot of people didn't realize that. I mean, watching her on screen, you would have never really thought that she was the opposite of what she portrayed.
What do you mean by?
This strong, sexy woman, and here she was one that just really cared about.
Oh,
everybody.
definitely. I mean, she also
She was like
paid
a Mother Teresa in
she-
drag.
She also paid to get everybody out of jail.
Right, that's what I'm
That were,
saying.
things like that. I don't
She-
think, and she didn't announce what she did because I found out some of the charities, she asked that nobody know about it.
That's
So
a good person.
It's
Frank
like she
Sinatra
didn't
was
do
like
it,
that, and a
for
lot of
the
them.
attention. She just did it.
Did it,
It's in her
yeah.
heart.
That's what I'm saying. No one, when you think of Mae West, you think of sex. You don't think of all
Well.
these great. No, that's what you think of, isn't it?
Personally, I don't, but.
No, I mean the men. I mean, you
Yeah,
looked at Mae West.
Yeah.
I mean, she just had this.
Oh yeah, she's got a wonderful attitude.
Come up and
towards
see me
it.
sometime.
Her
lines
double
is
entendre.
used till this day.
Oh yeah, I mean she's got so many amazing lines.
Yeah. Her and W.C. Fields.
Yes,
You know,
he was a magician too. a
Yes, I know,
juggler.
right,
He's got
yeah.
a whole room at the Magic
love that
Castle.
guy.
It's
Oh, I'd
very
love to go there
interesting.
someday and see it.
Well, we'll have to get that.
Please, I would love
yeah,
that.
definitely.
So listen, folks, JoyceLynn.com. You can look her up on Facebook.
Well, my name is spelled a little weird. It has an E. Oh, it's JoyceLynne.com.
And I put that on there, yeah.
But I just have one name because I think it's cool.
It is cool. You share and can beat it. So I want to really thank her.